This is a Wildcat Watch student production.
Welcome to a special edition of the Wildcat Weekly. I'm Megan Miller and I'll be your host this evening. Tonight, we will be continuing the conversation on smoking and tobacco policies. Our student senators will be debating and voting on a resolution next Thursday, February 18th. But for now, we need your questions and input. Throughout tonight's discussion, you can call, text, email, and tweet us your questions. You can start contacting us right now by calling the number on the screen or using the hashtag Campus Conversation on Twitter. And if email works better for you, you can reach us at sga@kstate.edu. We have 4 representatives from the Smoking and Tobacco Engagement Committee here to start the conversation. So can we start by introducing each one of you? Carlos?
Good evening, Megan. My name is Carlos Flores. And I am a junior majoring in agricultural economics, and I'm also a senator for the College of Agriculture.
My name is Alex Fanger. I'm a sophomore in accounting, and I'm the student affairs director.
Thanks for hosting us tonight, Megan. My name is Jonathan Pushin, and I'm a sophomore in mechanical engineering. I'm serving SGA as a senator for the College of Engineering and one of the co-chairs for the Smoking and Tobacco Engagement Committee.
My name is Michael Fox. I am a at-large member for the Smoking and Tobacco Engagement Committee, and I'm a senior in economics.
Great. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. We'll start this conversation just by kind of explaining the process. So Alex, could you tell us a little more about how this process got to K-State and the steps you've taken so far?
Yeah. Okay. So it started with student leadership a few years ago. They kind of started this process. They adopted a policy where it was 30 feet from the building, and so you could smoke 30 feet from a building, any building on K-State campus. And so then last year, the leaders adopted a stricter policy, and they actually adopted the policy of designated areas. And so it's not well known on campus, but that is the current policy, is designated areas. And so when the Kansas Health Foundation reached out to us, we decided that we would explore this end goal of a complete tobacco ban. And so me and Dawn Stubbings went to the workshop that the Kansas Health Foundation put on, and Ty Patterson was there. He is the executive director for the National Center for Tobacco Policy, and so he just kind of introduced himself, what he has done for other schools, and just kind of the background on how there are now 1,128 schools that are tobacco-free across the nation. And so after he got done speaking, we had KU speak, Fort Hays speak, and Pitt State speak about just kind of how they did it, the steps that they took to implement this, and just kind of to give us some information on if we would like to try this as a school. And so after they talked and they kind of told us how they did it and how they took a respect route, and it was just kind of for the better of their campus as a whole, we kind of talked and decided that that might be something we want to pursue as K-State campus. And so that's where that conversation started. And then we kind of talked as a cabinet and decided that we would like to pursue this. So we brought it to the Student Senate, and that is where Jonathan kind of took over this process.
Absolutely. So when the issue of smoking and tobacco came to the Student Senate, what Student Senate did was we created a special committee called the Special Committee for Smoking and Tobacco Engagement, with the task of leading discussions and studying the issue of smoking and tobacco on our campus. So as that committee went about its work, we had a survey that we sent out to a stratified sample of 2,500 students to gauge their opinions and their habits on smoking on our campus. And then we also tabled in the union for 6 days and had an open forum in the union to gather students' inputs and their thoughts on what they would like to see the policy become. So once we had all that data, we then compiled it and had a meeting on February 7th where as a committee we went through that data, we looked at it, and we ended up writing legislation that will be presented in Senate on February 11th for what we think the policy should be. So that legislation will be introduced on Thursday. It'll just be a reading and correcting of grammatical errors in the legislation. And then on February 18th, a week from Thursday, it will open up on the floor for debate amongst the senators and questions from the Senate.
Great. And for those of you who may not know how the voting process works, our Student Senate works a lot like the United States Senate. So each college has representatives, and the number of representatives each college gets is based on the number of students in that college. Senators then represent the best interest of those students. Now, Carlos is here with us, and he is a senator in the College of Agriculture. So, Carlos, could you just tell us a little more about the things that you did to gauge where your college stands on this topic?
Sure. So when this bill was introduced back in November, the College of Agriculture senators and I weren't sure what to do. We didn't know if the College of Agriculture students weren't going to be in favor of this or not. So instead of making a decision based on an assumption, we decided to make a decision based on facts. So we reach out to our constituents in our college through an online poll that we sent through the student listserv in the college. And the majority of students in college were in favor of a smoke ban, but not a tobacco ban.
Okay, great. And tell me, I guess, Michael, this question could be for you. Some of the things that you've noticed from the tabling and some of the things that you've heard students talking about on campus.
So I think one of the things that we gathered from tabling specifically was that a lot of people were still really confused on the actual policy as it stands. People like we had talked about, Alex had talked about earlier, we had people who thought it was 30 foot, the 30-foot rule from the doors. We had people who had thought it was just designated smoking areas. And so there was a lot of confusion as to what the actual policy was and how it stood. I don't know, Jonathan, if you have anything else that you want to add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was our biggest feedback that we got. But then we also had a wider arrangement of opinions on the issue of smoking and tobacco on our campus, where some were, there was something that they did every day and they felt that, it needed to stay around. And then there were others who did not like walking to class behind smokers or having to walk through an entrance to a building where sometimes smokers may gather.
And I think one thing that was really important was that we had to take into account all the different groups that are represented on campus and all the different colleges. And so as a group in the committee, we were really diverse and we had a lot of diverse opinions. And that kind of got reflected in the vote at the end about what to actually do moving forward. But throughout the process, we had a lot of difficulty deciding what we thought would be the best way to go.
Great. And speaking of people's opinions and all the different input I'm sure you guys have been receiving, we do have our first question from a faculty member. We got that via email. The question is, to have a complete ban rather than restricting smoking to a limited number of designated areas is to restrict the rights of smokers beyond what seems necessary to preserve the rights of non-smokers. What level of support should be required to take such action?
I'm going to defer that to Jonathan. He is a senator.
So how the process is going to work is Student Senate is just making a recommendation to President Kirk Schultz about what we think a majority of students think the policy should be. So ultimately, it's not Student Senate that's going to be making the decision. It's going to be President Schultz and his cabinet. But merely what the resolution is going to tell him is that a majority of senators think that a majority of students believe that this is what the campus smoking and tobacco policy should be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the clarification on that one. We do have another question, and this one is actually from a caller. So we'll go ahead and listen to that, and then we can answer it.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Hey, my name is Arthur White. I'm calling asking, considering that chewing tobacco doesn't have a secondhand effect, why is it a part of the proposed ban?
Very good question. Does anyone want to take the lead on that one?
That's actually one of the reasons why I am against a tobacco ban, and probably the reason why the students in the College of Agriculture are against it as well.
I guess I'll kind of go into this discussion a little bit more. For us, throughout the process, we were kind of aware of the whole health issue with tobacco and smoking, and so a lot of our discussion focused on respect. And for us, the tobacco side of the argument came into it's more of a matter of respect for your fellow students, respect for you making your own choice to do that if you decide to do that. And also, another problem we had in the discussion was deciding what was going to be allowed for students to do, and trying to make exceptions for different types of tobacco or different types of any kind of product someone wanted to use. And so those were two major problems we had throughout the discussion.
Great, thank you. Do we have any follow-up questions from our caller?
No, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, thank you very much for interacting in our discussion. And I guess I kind of have a question that I got based on that answer. Also, with smoking, I know that's a little more noticeable. When you see someone with a cigarette or an e-cigarette, which is also would be part of the ban, that's very quick to be able to lay some sort of consequence on. How have you guys discussed much about how you'll monitor the chewing tobacco part of it? Because I know that one can be a little more discreet in class.
Okay, so chewing tobacco kind of came from respect for your maintenance crew and for your buildings. And so we have a lot of people who are missing the trash cans and who are spitting in the urinals or the drinking fountains. And so it's kind of respect to them in a sense that it's not their job to clean that up, and it's not their job to just make sure that you're respecting their buildings. And so with that, I guess it's self-enforced. The whole thing would be self-enforced. And so it's more just kind of putting it on the person and saying that that's not their job, and that you should make their lives easier, not harder. And that as a K-State campus, we do preach family, and we do say that we're looking out for our neighbor and the people behind us. And so I guess it's just kind of putting it on you to say, are you going to stop doing that to the people behind you? And are you going to respect the people around you?
Okay, those are some great points. Thank you very much. I know that along those lines, my next question was, are there any actual consequences for people who are caught smoking or chewing tobacco on campus if this ban were to pass? Or is it just kind of self-responsibility thing in that sense too?
I can take that one. So right now it would be, we would just kind of look and see how the self-enforcement went, and then if there is some steps that need to be taken after that, that's something that we would review throughout the year, that we just kind of started it. But other schools have not seen enough pushback to do anything about it, that a lot of people really respond to the respect thing, and that a lot of people care about the people around them.
And one of the things we got from when we had our campus conversation was that people who do use products, they just want to know the rules. They want to make sure that they're respecting the rules, because they know that could have adverse effects on those around them. So in order for them to do a good job policing themselves, we have to make sure that we set concrete rules and say these are what the policies are, and then it's their choice to follow them or not. So.
And we do have another tweet that just came in, so we will go ahead to that. We have, how do you suppose this policy shift you're recommending, or let me start again. How do you all suppose this policy shift you're recommending will be enforced? So again, I think that's kind of a repeat question of how you'll enforce it. So maybe just repeat that for this viewer who may not have heard or understood that.
So it would be completely self-enforced.
Okay.
It would be on yourself to respect the rules, like Michael said, and just kind of take it upon yourself to decide if you're going to or if you're not going to do something.
So like you had mentioned that the main thing is making sure people know the rules and can follow the rules. So do you have a plan in action to post these somewhere or make everyone aware?
Yeah, and I think Alex has a lot more information on that. But essentially, it's going to be, if this goes through, if our proposal goes through, there'll be a year-long time span in which there'll be programs implemented where they can, you want to just jump in because I think you know a lot more about it.
They'll inform students of what's going on, and they'll just make sure that everyone knows ahead of time. We're not trying to blindside you with this. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And so just making people aware, like you said, of the rules and of what we're changing things to. And so we would just talk to different student groups and make sure that we're accommodating to everyone, and we'd have cessation programs. So if there is a problem that you need help with, that we have the resources for you, and we would absolutely have everything that you could need.
Absolutely. Is there a place that people can go to find those resources right now if they were to need that help?
I'm not positive if Liffian has them now, but I know that they will be getting them if this is something that we continue with.
And Also, like one thing we definitely we talked about in our committee meetings was we want to be able to get to people early, so through orientation. And so once we've established these policies, we're going to try and reach out to people through orientation, set very clear boundaries on like this is where the policy is, and that way moving forward, everyone on campus is aware of it. And so I imagine, well, my personal opinion on it was that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get those who are already here, but once those policies are in place long term, it'll just fall into place. Like people will know, like these are what your expectations are.
That's a great point. Thank you. We do have another email, so we will go ahead and see that. Is there a way I can support the ban on campus smoking, or will the vote be strictly among the members of SGA?
So our student senate meetings are open to all public, and any senator can yield his or her rights to a guest and debate in favor or against the bill.
So the best way to get involved would be to attend that meeting on the 18th.
On the 18th, correct.
There's a couple other ways that you can get involved. You can email the student senators for your college, and you can find their emails on the SGA webpage here at K-State. And then you can also show up to that meeting, speak to your senators there, or speak to them when you see them around campus going to class or something like that, and let them know your opinion on the policy.
Great. Now, since that conversation has been open in the union and started to generate some traction on social media, have you guys had many people asking you questions or giving their input?
We got our survey results with which Jonathan looked at. I believe we got how many responses?
We had a 30% response rate on our stratified survey, which is a very good amount to have if you're looking to have valid survey results. So
there were frequent comments on those survey responses, and the way the stratified survey works is that, just a brief explanation, is that they take students from across campus, from different colleges, from grad school, vet, med, everything, and they combine them all into a population that they think best represents the campus as a whole. And so to get 30% from a group that supposedly represents campus as a whole, we were really pleased with that. And there were really a frequent number of comments on those. And so we did get a lot of feedback through that. And I know a lot of us took the time to look through those comments and like sift through like the types of responses that we got. So we were pretty pleased with that.
Great. Is there anything else anyone would like to add? We don't have any more questions at the moment, so unless we get one last minute, we'll probably wrap this up. But if there's anything that you may think is really important for our viewers to know, now is a good time.
You know, I just really encourage students to attend that meeting on the 18th. Once we make a decision and the president makes a decision, there's no going back. So their input and their feedback is really important.
Great. What else?
I think for me, because I've sitting as like an outside member, I don't actually have a vote on the committee or when it actually goes to Senate. I think just trying to get involved in SGA as you can. Like I'm a senior now, so it's a little bit late for me. I would like to be a senator like going forward, but getting your foot in the door and just being open to having these kind of experiences where you can sit in on meetings and you can kind of understand the process goes a long way towards helping you understand what's happening here on campus. And additionally, I would say that even though our decision was like our policy is the way it is, there was a lot of dissension in the room. There was a lot of really good conversation, and a lot of us had opinions that fluctuated back and forth. And so it was a tough decision for us to make, but we thought it was the best way moving forward.
Great. Well, thank you guys again so much. Your voice matters in this decision. So if you do have any questions or input that we didn't address tonight, you can visit SGA's website, contact your senators, and even attend the meeting on Thursday, February 18th at 7 p.m. They meet in the Big 12 room in the Student Union. Thank you again for joining us, guys. That's all the time we've got for tonight. Signing off for the Wildcat Weekly, I'm Megan Miller.